Hello friends, I'm George, the nice smelling gentleman. Welcome back to the channel guys, I hope that all of you are doing well. It's time for another first impression video. And I'm really excited about this one because I was finally able to get my hands on some fragrances from the brand of Arabiyat, and to be more specific from their prestige line, which is supposedly a very high quality, very high end up line of fragrances. For today I have prepared these two fragrances. The first one is called Hypnotic Amber, and this one is supposedly very heavily inspired by Creed Aventus and Nishane Hashivat. And the second one is called Hypnotic Oud, and this one is supposedly very heavily inspired by Maison Margiela's By the Fireplace. So let's unbox them and let's try them for the first time. Now unfortunately yesterday while I was doing the original unpacking and first impression video, my microphone stopped working properly for some reason, and I found out about that today actually while I was editing the video itself. So unfortunately I have to re-record this section of the video and I won't be able to show you the real unpackaging of the fragrances themselves. And yeah, what can I do? But I still want to share my initial opinion, my initial thoughts on both Arabiyat fragrances because I think they're that good. The first fragrance that I'm going to check out and I'm going to talk about will be Arabiyat Prestige Hypnotic Oud. This one being inspired by the Fireplace from Maison Margiela. The fragrance comes packaged in a really nice looking, luxurious box. On the front you got this sort of a gemstone thing. You open up the box like this, an interesting way, and then this is how the actual bottle looks. The production date, if anyone is interested, is April of 2024. This is the bottle design. One thing I don't like about this bottle is the bottle design is the fact that the bottles are absolute fingerprint magnets, but the bottles themselves are very heavy. The caps are plastic, but I think they have metallic coating. They feel very heavy in hand. You get a secure click. You get that pretty same gemstone thing here on the bottle itself. All around the packaging is actually really luxurious. And now let's try this one on skin. In the original video I did that as well. You know, I didn't bother with trying them on paper, directly on skin. You get a pressurized atomizer that's really nice. And now onto the scent of a Hypnotic Oud from Arabiyat Prestige. This fragrance is an absolutely fantastic scent that has super high quality. Let me get that out of the way first. It's very similar to By the Fireplace. Opens up with a very nice, very strong amount of incense note, very smoky. There's a hint of spiciness as well, and you also get a lot of woody notes, and you get a ton of sweetness as well. It really, and maybe there's a hint of something green somewhere in the background, but the main players here are the smoky note, the woody notes, and the sweetness. Feels a bit spicy, and to my nose at least this feels like a slightly less smoky version of the original fragrance. Feels slightly sweet in the opening. I definitely pick up a lot of vanilla sweetness, a lot of ambery sweetness, and quite a lot of sugary sweetness as well. And in fact the sugary sweetness is probably the most prominent sweet note in the opening of this fragrance. It's a very woody and a very sort of a warm fragrance in the opening, and as a matter of fact on the dry down as well. Feels kind of balsamic as well, and all around this has absolutely fantastic quality and is super nice. There's absolutely no harshness in this fragrance, and you know, if someone told me without you know, smelling it up front, knowing what it's clone or anything, that this is a Middle Eastern fragrance that's relatively affordable, you know, I would have thought that this is at least designer level. It has such an amount of quality. Really nice opening, and the opening is super lovely for me, and very similar to By the Fireplace from Maison Margiela. The other one is of course Hypnotic Amber, again from that very same line. Identical bottle design, but with a slightly different color combination. You get a pretty similar gemstone in here. You open up the box in a pretty similar way, and the fragrance sits inside. Exactly the same bottle design as well, but this one being in sort of a dark reddish color, you know, coloration. Again, gemstone here on the front, heavy cap with metallic coating, secure click. Super lovely you know, packaging and bottle design. Now let's try the sprayer of this one. This is also a pressurized sprayer. As you can see, absolutely fantastic. I love pressurized sprayers, and these are really good. And now on to the scent of Hypnotic Amber. Now this fragrance is supposedly very heavily inspired by Creed Aventus and Nishane Hashivat, and I can definitely tell you that in the opening this feels somewhat similar to Aventus and Hashivat. But to my nose, this feels closer to Hashivat than Aventus. But at the same time, what I've discovered about this fragrance is that it actually does its own thing. Yes, it seems like it's inspired by those original scents, but it feels quite different at the same time. You still get a lot of that fruity sweetness that you get from both original fragrances, but this feels a little bit fresher in the opening, as if there's a more citrusy freshness in the opening of this fragrance. Also feels a little bit more spicy compared to both Hashivat and Creed Aventus. And one other thing that's different here is that this feels a lot greener compared to the original scent. This is like a slightly fresher, slightly more citrusy, slightly more spicy and greener take on the original DNA. In the air, probably smells more similar to the original fragrances than up close. Definitely carries a lot of the vibes of the original scents, but I don't think this is a straight up clone. I think it goes into its own direction and does its own thing. Again, another very smooth, very nicely blended fragrance that has absolutely fantastic quality, really impressive scent, and also it seems to be a very strong fragrance as well. At least from my initial impressions, I think this will be a very good performer, and seems to be pushing really nicely off skin as well. All around a very interesting take on Creed Aventus and Nishane Hashivat, and to be honest, I was actually expecting this to be closer to the original fragrances, but this in a kind of nice and refreshing way doesn't seem like a straight up clone. It seems like something that's been inspired from those original fragrances, but also does its own thing, especially in the opening. So about 1 hour has passed since I sprayed both Hypnotic Oud and Hypnotic Amber on my skin, and I just wanted to share a few thoughts on their early dry downs. When it comes to Hypnotic Oud, this is a very nice clone of Maison Margiela's By the Fireplace. Super high quality, absolutely fantastic blend. Feels a little bit less smoky in the opening, and on the dry down as well feels a little bit sweeter, like it has more sugary sweetness on the dry down, but all around feels very close to the original scent and feels absolutely fantastic on skin. It has a very nice blend. It's super smooth, and I absolutely love it. I'm a huge fan of the original scent, and Hypnotic Oud is probably the best clone of By the Fireplace that I've tried so far in my fragrance journey. Feels really nice, and again, I absolutely love the opening and even the dry down of Hypnotic Oud. I'm going to test the performance of this one out, and I really do hope that this turns out to be a good performer, because the quality here is top notch. When it comes to Hypnotic Amber, this one is inspired by Creed Aventus and Nishane Hashivat. And the opening felt somewhat close to both of those two original fragrances, maybe leaning a little bit to the Hashivat side. But the interesting thing is that on the dry down this changes quite a lot, and in my opinion this becomes its own thing. Yes, still carries a lot of vibes from the original fragrances, but also feels quite different. This feels like a soapier take on the original DNA, feels less sweet, less fruity sweetness in here. Feels more like having ambery sweetness. Definitely feels like a greener take on the original DNAs, less mossy, less smoky, less birchy, and has a very interesting rose note on the dry down that is not overwhelming, and it's really nicely and interestingly blended with all the other notes here on the dry down. In a way, Hypnotic Amber reminds me a little bit of something like Sharaf the Club from Zimaya, which is a soapier take on the Creed Aventus DNA. But this definitely has quite better quality compared to Sharaf the Club. This feels thicker, it's sweeter, not as fresh as Sharaf the Club. And again, I think this is really doing its own thing compared to the original scents. I don't think this is a straight up clone. This is more like a distant inspiration or a heavy twist on the original fragrance. And once again, the quality here is absolutely fantastic. And again, I'm going to test out the performance of Hypnotic Amber, and I really do hope that this turns out to be a great performer, because again, the quality is top notch with this one as well. And so guys, in today's video I unpacked and tried for the first time two fragrances from Arabiyat and their prestige line of scents. Two very impressive, super high quality fragrances. Hypnotic Oud, which is a clone of Mesa Margiela's By the Fireplace, and Hypnotic Amber, which is a very heavy twist on the Creed Aventus Nishane Hashivat DNA. I hope that you found this video interesting. If you did, give it a like, and I also hope that you're going to join me in the next one. And until then, stay safe and bye bye.